All right, man. Torture Talk. Like,
good,
share,
people.
subscribe to the page.
We back.
Hit the thumbs up button if you like the content. You know what it is. So we're going to react to this top 10 prison romance.
I wouldn't say romance because some of them was weirdos.
Romance. So let's get it.
Here are the top prison guards who crossed the line with inmates. Do you think guards and inmates should be charged for falling in love? Let us know below. Number 10, Nancy Gonzalez. Nancy was working on the death row in Brooklyn when she met Ronell Wilson, an inmate on death row for taking the lives of 2 undercover police officers during a weapons sting gone wrong. The two began to talk and reportedly quickly fell in love. Gonzalez was intent on keeping Wilson free and alive and was actively working to delay his execution to give them more time together. She would become pregnant and give birth to his child, which they named Justice. However, Gonzalez was sentenced to a year and a day in prison, while Wilson really can't be given a worse sentence. However, it is possible he will meet his fateful day more quickly due to the controversy. Nancy still attests to being deeply in love with Wilson and will raise their child to remember him well once she is out of prison. Number 9, Allison Sharples. Allison may be one of the strangest cases on this list. The 47-year-old had fallen in love with an inmate at her prison. The grandmother met gangster Marvin Berkeley after he was incarcerated for assault and substance charges and seemed to be utterly enraptured with him. She was found to have love letters from him after being caught with the most damning piece of evidence. Her handbag was searched as she left the prison one day, only for the screener to find a shocking item, a syringe filled with Marvin's genetic material. She claimed she had intended to use it in a similar manner to a turkey baster so she could have Marvin's child, but she would instead be sentenced to 9 months in prison. Perhaps just enough time. Number 8, Caleb Shane Hopkins. Caleb Hopkins is one of the most disturbed guards on this list. While other prison guards at least had the claim of love behind their escapades, Caleb is a predator through and through. Prison guards hold an incredible amount of power over the inmates in their care and could single-handedly be responsible for an inmate being given preferential treatment or being put in solitary confinement. This is why prisoners cannot consent. The power differential is just too great. And indeed, Caleb would exploit his position of power to exploit the women in the women's prison who he had access to. Caleb repeatedly accosted Mrs. Fowler until she eventually became pregnant with his child. She gave up the child to her parents after giving birth, but is still in the same prison, suffering from severe trauma. Hopkins, on the other hand, would plead guilty to multiple counts of SA and is now thankfully serving prison time. Number 7, Bobby Parker. The story of Bobby Parker is a sad and confusing one. Bobby was a guard and worker at the Oklahoma State Reformatory, as well as being the wife of the prison warden. She met Randolph Dial, a man sentenced to life for the taking of a life in 1981, and stories differ, but it's believed that the two met during a pottery for prisoners class that Bobby ran. They began to get closer, and it's believed that they fell in love. Dial and Parker would engage in illicit acts as per witness testimony, and at some point, Dial decided to use Parker to escape. Holding her hostage with a weapon, Dial escaped and kidnapped her before going on the run to a small Texan community where the two lived quietly for almost 11 years. Despite both Parker and Dial asserting that Parker was kidnapped and forced through threat of harm to her.
Wait. First of all, she was the warden's wife?
Yeah. Yeah, she was the warden's wife.
I think we found a gold mine. For all you people doing the alpha motivation, here's our gold mine. So it's true that men are not lying about women.
What are you talking about?
If y'all would go that far, your husband's the warden, and you would do this with one of the inmates.
What's the point?
The point is, women are crazy.
Man, stop. You ain't get me stop the video for that.
Women are crazy, bro.
Come on.
Almost 11 years. Despite both Parker and Dial asserting that Parker was kidnapped and forced through threat of harm to her family to stay with Dial, the official position seems to be that she was a willing and eager participant in the escape. Parker, however, vehemently denies this after having returned to her family in 2005, after an anonymous tip brought law enforcement down on her and Dial. Parker maintains she was kidnapped and has spent over a decade missing her family and children while being severely mistreated by Dial. She was, however, convicted and sentenced to just over a year and a half of prison time. Number 6, Lawana
All right, let me stop it right there. I think you got a point. So let me get this right, bitch. Hold up. Let me get this right. So hold up. So you escapes with a prisoner, an inmate, for 11 years. And you say that you took, just to be honest, you took a break from your family. You took a break from your family. Just be honest. You escaped for 11 years. And then you're going to say, well, I felt like I was under distress and been being mistreated the whole time. Really? Come on now. Come on.
Number 6, Lawana Sharp. After a routine monitoring check of the prison's payment service, JPay uncovered a false account. Prison authorities began to investigate the guards at the Graceville Correctional Facility. What they found was shocking. They revealed that Lawana Sharp, a correctional officer at the prison, had been having a secret relationship with an unnamed inmate for several months and had been using the alias Candy Williams to receive payment for smuggling contraband. The couple engaged in indecent acts in numerous public areas of the prison, resulting in numerous charges for Lawana. Worse still, she had been smuggling in contraband on her person for her intimate lover and numerous of his friends. Over the course of 67 payments, she was paid well over $12,000 and would smuggle in over 600 cigars alone. Sharp has been charged with more than 70 crimes, including 67 counts of unlawful compensation, unlawful interactions with an inmate, and smuggling charges. Sharp received payments from inmates' families and friends, and it's likely would have expanded her operations given how much she was being given in return. It's likely she will be put in prison for a life sentence with parole, though sadly for Sharp, she won't be imprisoned with her inmate lover. Number 5, Vicky White. For 16 years...
Hold the fuck up. So let me get this right. So this bitch gets life in prison for sneaking in cigars and giving it to her lover and giving him money. But the other bitch escaped with the nigga. She escaped. She was the warden's husband, the warden's wife. Escaped with an inmate, lived in a small town for 15 years. For 11 years, they said. 11 years. Finally got caught. She only did a year in prison. How does that even match up? That's crazy as fuck, man. That's crazy.
Be imprisoned with her inmate lover. Number 5, Vicky White. For 16 years, Vicky White was a model sheriff's deputy, running the jail in Lauderdale County, Alabama. She was closely trusted by the sheriff and her colleagues and was generally regarded as a highly capable and responsible officer. However, in April of 2022, she would betray the trust of her colleagues and help murderer Casey White to escape from the prison she had kept secure for nearly 2 decades. The two had developed a romantic relationship, and though they had never made physical contact in the prison, to anyone's knowledge, they did spend a lot of time texting and calling one another. Just hours before the escape, Vicky told her colleagues she would be taking Casey to the courthouse for a mental evaluation. This was a clear violation of the prison rules, however, Vicky was allowed to leave with Casey. The pair immediately fled and ditched the patrol car for another plateless getaway car, and Vicky, it turned out, had sold her home for half its market value to buy the getaway car and provisions to help Casey escape. As the prison was made aware of the escape, several inmates came forward to reveal the true romantic depth of the relationship. The duo swapped cars 4 times before eventually being chased by police in a gray Cadillac. As police closed in, the Cadillac hit a tree and crashed. Casey was apprehended only slightly wounded, but Vicky had taken her own life as the police approached the wrecked car. Lauderdale Sheriff Singleton says Casey will never see the light of day again. Number 4, Chanel Eichelberger. Eichelberger was a correctional officer at the Manning Reentry/Work Release Center in South Carolina. The prison is a male-only minimum security facility holding 516 inmates. On December 21st, 2022, Eichelberger was recorded by an inmate engaging in illicit acts and breaking numerous codes of conduct. It took several days for the video to circulate to the point that it was seen by prison authorities, but when it was, Chanel was rapidly apprehended. Arrested on January 6th, Chanel has since been charged with up to a year in prison and $1,000 fine, as she only committed a misdemeanor crime for carnal misconduct with an inmate, she will not see the intense prison time that some other guards turned lovers suffer. Though she will be forced to vacate her position as a public servant, she will have an opportunity to redeem herself and pursue a career beyond law enforcement. Number 3, Tina Gonzalez. Working as a correctional officer since 2016, Gonzalez would be found guilty of breaking numerous laws within the jailhouse as she engaged in indecent acts with allegedly multiple inmates. Tina has become somewhat famous for her brazen actions and the fantastic disregard for caution she demonstrated. According to her defense, she had recently been through an extremely rocky and rough divorce which had left her in a vulnerable emotional state. This was taken advantage of by the inmates at the Fresno County Correction Center who reportedly manipulated her into numerous illicit acts. Most concerning of all, however, was the contraband which Tina brought to her lovers, which included razors and other potential weapons. As well, Tina would warn her paramour of upcoming searches, allowing him to hide any illicit substances or contraband. These actions could have put dozens of inmates and guards in severe danger, and her other brazen acts are seen by prison management as setting dangerous precedents for the rest of the guards. The more guards and inmates have these close interactions, the harder it will be to maintain safety and control over the incarcerated populations, and will make a violent interaction far more likely. Number 2, Joyce Mitchell. Joyce Mitchell was a tailor at the Clinton Correctional Facility and was married with children. She would become the target of a seduction and escape plot made by the two murderers David Sweat and Richard Matt. Sweat was in prison for a kidnapping and double homicide, while Matt was in prison for robbery and murder in the first degree. Joyce was deeply respected in the community and was even twice elected to be the town's tax collector. Starting by asking for small favors before ramping up their requests, Sweat and Matt ingratiated themselves with Mitchell and got to know her. She was especially close with Matt, and it's believed she continued the relationship partially due to the thrill that flirting with danger brought. Eventually, she would smuggle in hacksaw blades, files, and other tools in frozen meat patties, which allowed Sweat and Matt to carve their way through the brick wall of their cell, as well as through a steam pipe in order to break into unsecured maintenance corridors. They eventually entered the sewer system and popped up out of a manhole cover some distance from the prison. Joyce was supposed to drive them to freedom, but had severe chest pains that day that prevented her from aiding the two. Another guard was also found guilty of supplying tools and information to the pair for their escape. Sweat and Matt would go on the run, which would culminate in Matt's demise as he and Sweat were caught in police fire. Sweat would be wounded but would survive. For her role in the plot, Joyce was sentenced to 5 years in prison and 2 years probation, along with $80,000 in fines for the damages. Number 1, Chloe Jones. Chloe Jones had only just started a career as a corrections officer in Britain's HMP Alt course when she met the man who would end her life as she knew it. She had only been working for a few months when she met Philip King at the prison and started communicating with him. Once the relationship began, it was fiery, with the pair exchanging over 3,000 texts in 46 days on illegal contraband burner phones. Chloe wasn't involved with King's escape from prison, which he managed on his own. However, she did harbor him at her home for several months while police searched for the fugitive, even going so far as to directly lie to police to cover for him using a false name to keep his identity secret. Following a botched burglary, King and Jones fled from police in a car and led them on a pursuit through Liverpool, at the end of which they were both arrested. Initially, Jones covered for King to the police. However, after a second day of interrogations, she admitted everything to them. King would be sentenced to an additional 36 months in prison on top of his previous sentence, and Jones would be sentenced to 15 months in prison. Those are the top prison guards who crossed the line with inmates. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, and share, and be sure to follow for more.
Anyway, what you saying?
Joyce, it's funny because it's like she was a fuck up. 2 niggas is hitting it, so that means you got a train ran on you, then you can't make it the next day because of chest pains.
Well, they were saying that she didn't have no relationship with them. The one dude she was close to, but they didn't hit it. They didn't fuck her.
That's more of a fuck up then.
So it's like she was doing them a favor. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always the women, man. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always the women. I think it was one guy on there, right?
Yeah, the weirdo.
Yeah, it was one guy on there.
Fucking weirdo.
It's always the women.
Why you gotta essay the chick, man? That made no sense.
I don't understand the last one where
Chloe Jones.
That's
Casey Jones' sister.
Chloe Jones. Casey Jones.
Casey.
Like, I don't understand what you didn't help him escape. He got out, and then you let him in your crib. Why couldn't you just see the nigga at a hotel? Like, you could have paid for the hotel or whatever and just let him stay in a hotel. Like, why do you have to be at your crib? Why are you lying? Then it's like, I think some of these women, they just want to live on the edge. These dudes are murderers and killers.
And then some of them just never had that type of excitement when it came to relationships in their life.
That's what I just said that. That's what I'm
okay.
talking about. They want to live on the edge.
Yeah, same thing, but you know. Oh, fuck it. You're right. Whatever.
They want to live on the edge.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the point of all this? What is the point of all this? It's like every one of them chicks on there was romantically involved with a murderer or a killer. And then they always talk about there's no nice guys out there. You out there seeking murderers and killers. I don't understand it.
Then you want to put your life on the line. Like, everything you've been at that job, or you just got that job, you have retirement and future, everything set up, and you want to fuck it up for an inmate. Some of it was in life. They was doing life. You want to mess up your future and your career for that dude. What an idiot.
There's no good ending to none of that. They gotta know this. Like, I think people try to ignore the obvious. There's no good ending to these stories. If you are if you messing with an inmate who is basically in prison for 25 years and he convinces you to help him escape, you should already know that there's no good ending to this. You're going to get caught. He's going to get caught. One of y'all going to get hurt, injured, died, shot, whatever. Something's going to happen. He's going to get caught. You're going to get caught. And then you're going to go to prison and you're going to ruin your life. I don't understand these people. Now, that's the lover boy effect. I believe it when it comes to that type of shit. When you know danger is there and you still do it. Nah, I'm not trying to hear it.
That's called the no common sense effect.
Well, I agree with that. I do believe that Data had no common sense, but I think a lot of these people, man, they just feel like you said, they just want to live on it, live like on the edge. It's like, I don't get it, man. I don't understand it. But anyway, man, Torture Talk, we out of here, man.
Like, subscribe, hit the bell.
That bell.